The receipt was for 2 Moscow mules at a bar called the Edison, time-stamped 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, when my husband Marcus was supposedly at a quarterly budget meeting in Cleveland. I found it wadded in the pocket of his gym shorts while doing laundry, the purple ink bleeding from where his sweat had soaked through during what he'd called an early morning run before my flight. The Edison was 14 miles from our house in Westfield, New Jersey. I'd never heard of it. I stood there in our laundry room, holding that damp piece of paper, while the dryer tumbled behind me, making its familiar squeak every third rotation. Marcus and I had been meaning to fix that squeak for 3 years. Now I wondered what else we'd been ignoring. 22 years of marriage creates its own gravity. You orbit each other in predictable patterns: who makes coffee, who checks the doors at night, who handles the taxes, who remembers to buy milk. Marcus traveled for his job as a supply chain director at a pharmaceutical company. I managed operations for a non-profit that provided after-school programs in Newark. We had 2 kids, Emma 19, a son away at Rutgers, and Tyler 16, and perpetually attached to his gaming headset. We weren't unhappy. At least I hadn't thought we were unhappy. The receipt shouldn't have meant anything. People's flights get cancelled, meetings end early. Maybe he grabbed a drink with his colleague Pete before heading home. Except Marcus hadn't come home that Tuesday night. He'd texted at 9:30 p.m. that the meeting was running late, that he'd crash at the airport hotel and catch the first flight out Wednesday morning. I'd been asleep when he slipped into bed beside me at what must have been 2 in the morning, smelling like airplane and that sharp scent of hotel soap. I folded the receipt and put it in my pocket. Then I pulled it out and photographed it with my phone. Then I deleted the photo. Then I retrieved it from my recently deleted folder. This dance of wanting to know and not wanting to know would become familiar over the next several weeks. Mom, where's my blue jersey?" Tyler's voice carried down the stairs. "Check your floor." I called back, my voice surprisingly steady. "Found it." The domestic rhythm continued. I finished the laundry, made dinner chicken piccata, Marcus's favorite, and listened to him tell us about the Cleveland meeting over dinner, how they'd had to restructure the entire distribution network for the Midwest region, how Peterson from finance had pushed back on every line item, how they'd ordered in Chinese food when it ran late, and how the wontons had been soggy. "Sounds brutal," I said, passing him the salad bowl. "It was." He served himself his wedding ring, catching the light. "But we got it done. That's what matters." Tyler asked if he could go to Jake's house after dinner. Marcus said yes without checking with me first, which he always did when he felt guilty about something. Usually it was for buying another gadget we didn't need, or forgetting to pick up something from the store. I watched him across our dining room table. This man I'd loved since I was 23 and tried to see him clearly. When had the grey appeared at his temples? When had those lines around his eyes deepened? When had he started lying to me? That night, I waited until his breathing deepened into sleep, then crept downstairs with his phone. I knew his passcode, our anniversary date, but when I entered it, the phone remained locked. He'd changed it. I sat at our kitchen island in the dark, his phone in my hand, and felt the first fracture in the foundation of everything I thought I knew. The next morning was Thursday. Marcus left early for the gym, his actual gym, this time the Lifetime Fitness where we'd been members for 8 years. I knew because I called them. Hi, I'm hoping you can help me, I said to the cheerful voice that answered. My husband thinks he left his wallet there yesterday morning. Marcus Brennan. Let me check our lost and found, she said. What time was he here? That's the thing, he's not sure if it was Wednesday or Tuesday morning. I can look up his check-ins. One moment. Keyboard clicking. I show Mr. Brennan checked in Wednesday at 6:15 a.m., but not Tuesday. His last visit before that was Sunday afternoon. Oh, then it must be somewhere else. Thank you so much. My hands were shaking when I hung up. Tuesday morning, when he'd supposedly gone for an early run before his flight to Cleveland, he hadn't been at the gym. Such a small lie. Such a specific lie. I called my sister Sarah in Boston. She answered on the second ring. Hey Celia, what's up? Can you talk? Something in my voice must have warned her. Give me a sec. I heard a door close. Okay, what's wrong? I think Marcus is having an affair. The words hung there between Boston and New Jersey, crossing state lines and cell towers, and 28 years of sisterhood. Tell me everything, Sarah said. So I did. The receipt, the changed passcode, the gym lie. It sounded both damning and ridiculous when I said it out loud. Celia, honey, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully. Has anything else been different? Before this week, I closed my eyes, forcing myself to look back over the past few months with new eyes. He started using a different cologne in maybe February, said the old one was discontinued. He's been working out more, lost probably 15 pounds. And I paused, remembering. He bought new underwear, threw out all his old boxers, and bought those fitted boxer briefs. Said it was time to upgrade. Oh, Jesus, Sarah whispered. But those could all be nothing right midlife improvements. He turns 46 next month. They could be, Sarah said carefully. But Celia, trust your gut. It's telling you something's wrong. What do I do? You pay attention. You document everything. And you protect yourself financially. Can you look at bank statements without him knowing? Everything's online. We have joint accounts. Look at them. Look at credit cards. Look for patterns. And Celia, maybe talk to a lawyer, just to know your options. Sarah, I can't. We have Tyler, Emma's tuition, the house. I know, but information isn't action. It's just information. After we hung up, I sat at my desk at the non-profit, staring at my computer screen. I had 3 grant proposals to review, a board meeting to prepare for, and 47 emails to answer. Instead, I logged into our bank account. The patterns emerged slowly, like a photograph developing in reverse clear picture, dissolving into suspicious shadows. Charges at restaurants I didn't recognize. An Uber receipt on a Saturday when he'd supposedly been golfing with his brother. A charge at Saks Fifth Avenue for $400 the same week he'd told me we needed to cut back on expenses because Emma's meal plan was more than we'd budgeted for. Knock, knock. My colleague Janet stood in my doorway. You missed the staff meeting. I looked at the clock. 11:30. The meeting had been at 10:00. I'm sorry, Are you okay? You look pale. I think I'm coming down with something. Janet's face softened with concern. Go home. We can cover your afternoon. I almost refused, then realized I needed the time. Thank you, I'll make it up. Don't be ridiculous, just feel better. I drove home in a daze, taking the long way through Westfield's tree-lined streets. This was the life we'd built. the colonial with the red door, the good schools, the neighbor who collected our mail when we went to the Outer Banks every August, the book club I hosted every third Thursday, the youth soccer league Marcus had coached for 5 years when the kids were younger. How much of it was real? How much of it was performance? At home, I became an archaeologist of my own life. I went through credit card statements, matching charges to his calendar. The conference in Chicago in January. He'd been there, but the minibar charge at the hotel was $200. Marcus didn't drink from minibars. He thought they were a rip-off. He'd bring his own bottle of wine from home before he'd pay $12 for a tiny bottle of Pinot Grigio. His laptop was in his home office closet, but not locked. We'd always shared passwords until apparently we didn't. His email required a password I didn't know. But his calendar was synced to our shared family one, and when I clicked over to his work calendar, I found a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. Cleveland Budget Review. Q3 follow-up. My heart hammered. Another Cleveland meeting. I screenshotted the calendar entry, then went deeper. There had been 4 Cleveland meetings in the past 3 months. Always on Tuesdays, always overnight. I called the pharmaceutical company's main line and asked for the Cleveland office. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said. "Which Cleveland office?" "The one where the supply chain meetings are held." "Ma'am, we don't have a Cleveland office. Our Ohio operations are in Cincinnati and Columbus only." I hung up and ran to the bathroom, barely making it, before I threw up. 22 years, 2 children, 1 life, and Cleveland didn't even exist. When Marcus came home that night, I had dinner ready. Tyler was at practice. It was just the two of us sitting at our kitchen island, eating salmon and asparagus like it was any other Thursday. "How was your day?" he asked, checking his phone while he ate. "Quiet." Janet covered my afternoon. I wasn't feeling well. He looked up, concern flickering across his face. "You okay now?" "Better." "Marcus, I was thinking about next week. You have that Cleveland trip Tuesday." "Yeah." He speared a piece of salmon. "Same quarterly review thing. Maybe I could come with you. Make it a little getaway. We haven't been anywhere, just the 2 of us, since Emma left for school." His fork paused halfway to his mouth. "It's going to be all meetings. You'd be bored. I could explore the city. We could have dinner together after." "The meetings usually run late. Plus, it's not exactly a vacation destination." He smiled the same smile that had made me fall in love with him at my roommate's birthday party all those years ago. "But I love that you want to. Maybe we should plan something for real. A long weekend somewhere warm." "Ah, that sounds nice," I said, matching his smile with one of my own. He reached over and squeezed my hand. "I love you, Sel. Love you too." That night, after he fell asleep, I went through his gym bag. Nothing unusual. Then his briefcase. Just work papers and his laptop. Then his car, using the excuse of looking for Tyler's missing calculus textbook. In the center console underneath the car manual, I found a receipt from CVS. Condoms. We hadn't used condoms in 15 years. I had an IUD. I sat in our garage, in the passenger seat of his Audi, holding that receipt and shaking. The garage smelled like motor oil and the ghost of summer lawn clippings. I could hear the hum of our neighbor's pool filter through the wall. These were the sounds of our life, the white noise of suburbia, and they continued unchanged while everything inside me crumbled. Saturday arrived with Tyler's travel soccer tournament. Marcus and I stood on the sideline with the other parents doing our performance of normal. He brought me coffee from the concession stand, cream no sugar, the way I'd taken it for 22 years. He cheered when Tyler scored. He chatted with the other dads about the Giants' prospects for the season. Linda Morrison sidled up to me during halftime. Celia, I've been meaning to ask. Is Marcus's company hiring? My nephew just graduated with a supply chain degree. I'm not sure, I said. I can have Marcus check. He was so helpful when Brad was looking last year. Gave him all those contacts in Cleveland. My chest tightened. Brad was looking in Cleveland. Oh no. But Marcus knew people there from all his trips. Small world, right actually. Brad met one of them, a woman from some logistics firm. Catherine something. She was lovely. Brad said she and Marcus seemed to work really closely together. The field tilted. I gripped my coffee cup. That's nice, I heard myself say. Linda kept talking, but her words became background noise. Catherine. A name to go with the receipts and the lies and the condoms in the center console. That night, I told Marcus I was taking Tyler to look at colleges Sunday through Tuesday. Princeton on Sunday, Penn on Monday, then Lehigh Tuesday morning. We'll be back the Tuesday afternoon. That's ambitious, he said, barely looking up from his laptop. Tyler's junior year is almost over. We're running out of time. Don't let him fall in love with Princeton. We can't afford Princeton. We'll see what financial aid is available. Marcus nodded, already back to his screen. Drive safe. Sunday morning, Tyler and I left as planned. We did tour Princeton. Tyler was enthusiastic about their engineering program. We stayed overnight in Philadelphia, toured Penn Monday morning. Then I told Tyler I had a work emergency. We need to head back. I'm sorry about Lehigh. It's fine, Tyler said, putting in his AirPods. I didn't really want to see it anyway. I dropped Tyler at home at 3 p.m. Monday afternoon. Marcus's car wasn't there. He was supposedly at work. I told Tyler I had to go to the office to handle the emergency. Instead, I drove to the Edison. The bar was exactly what I'd expected. Upscale enough to feel special. Dark enough to feel private. Far enough from home to avoid running into anyone you knew. It was mostly empty on a Monday afternoon. I sat at the bar and ordered a glass of wine from a bartender with sleeve tattoos and kind eyes. Quiet afternoon, I said. Mondays usually are. Tuesdays are busy night, weirdly enough. Really, why Tuesdays? He shrugged. Half-price wine. Brings in the professional crowd. You know people who can't cut loose on Fridays because of weekend family stuff. I sipped my wine. It tasted like ashes. Do you work every Tuesday? Most of them, yeah. Good tips on wine night. I pulled up a photo on my phone, our family Christmas card from last year. This is going to sound weird, but have you seen this man here? My husband. He looked at the phone, then at me, his expression shifting from friendly to wary. Lady, I don't get involved in domestic stuff. Please, I just need to know. He wiped down the bar, avoiding my eyes. Then quietly, yeah, he's been in. Tuesday nights usually. With a redhead. They sit in the back booth. A redhead. I thanked him, left a $40 tip on a $12 tab, and walked out into the afternoon sun. The parking lot smelled like hot asphalt and desperation. Tuesday came like a slow-motion car crash. Marcus left for work normal time. I called in sick. Again, Janet was starting to worry, texting me about whether I'd seen a doctor. I sat in my car in the parking lot of a Starbucks near the Edison and waited. At 7 p.m., Marcus's Audi pulled into the Edison's parking lot. He got out, checked his reflection in the side mirror, and walked in. 10 minutes later, a white Mercedes pulled in. The woman who got out had auburn hair that caught the dying light like copper wire. She was younger than me, maybe 35, wearing a black dress that was both professional and something more. Catherine, I presumed. I waited 5 minutes, then followed. They were in the back booth, just like the bartender had said. She was laughing at something Marcus had said, her hand resting on his forearm. He was leaning toward her, his whole body angled, in a way I recognized but hadn't seen directed at me in years. They looked like what we used to look like, back when the mortgage was theoretical, and the kids were just a someday dream. I walked straight to their booth. Marcus saw me first. The color drained from his face so fast, I thought he might faint. "Celia! Hi, honey!" I said, sliding in next to Catherine, who tried to pull her hand back but couldn't, because I was now sitting on her purse strap. "You must be Catherine. From Cleveland." She looked between us, her expertly lined eyes wide. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I suggested. "No, I don't think so. See, there is no Cleveland office. I checked. So these Tuesday night meetings, they're just this." I gestured at the wine, the intimate booth, the guilty faces. "How long has this been going on?" Marcus found his voice. "Celia, let's talk about this at home." "No, we'll talk about it here, in front of Catherine." I turned to her. "You know he's married, right? 2 kids, 22 years. Aila's..." She looked at Marcus, who was staring at the table. "He said you were separated, that you were living separate lives, staying together for the kids." The laugh that came out of me was sharp enough to cut glass. "Separated. We had sex Sunday morning before I took our son to tour colleges." Catherine's face went white, then red. She grabbed her purse hard enough that I had to shift to release the strap. "You son of a bitch," she said to Marcus, then looked at me. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." She fled her heels, clicking against the floor like a timer counting down. Marcus and I sat in the booth, the space between us, expanding like the universe itself. "How long?" I asked. 4 months. "Who is she?" "She works for a vendor. We met at a conference." "The Chicago conference in January." He nodded. "Do you love her?" He was quiet for so long, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I don't know. You don't know." I let that sit between us. "But you knew enough to lie, to create an entire fictional city, to buy condoms, to change your phone passcode." "Celia?" "Our anniversary. You changed it from our anniversary." "I can explain." "No." I stood up. "You can pack. You can find somewhere else to sleep tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out how to tell the kids. But tonight you don't come home." "Celia, please, let's be rational about this." "Rational. You want rational? Okay, here's rational. I've taken screenshots of every suspicious charge. I've documented every lie. I've already called a lawyer, Sarah's friend from law school. So, if you want rational, We can be very, very rational about dividing assets and calculating support payments, or we can try to do this with some dignity. Your choice. I walked out, leaving him with the check. At home, Tyler was in his room, headset on deep in some online battle. I stood in his doorway watching him, this almost man who still slept with the stuffed dinosaur he'd had since he was 3, hidden under his pillow where he thought I didn't know about it. How do you protect your children from the failures of the adults who made them? I called Sarah. I confronted him. At the bar, with her there. Holy shit, Celia! Are you okay? I don't know. I told him not to come home tonight. Good, stand your ground. Where will he go? I don't care. But I did care. That was the horrible thing. 22 years of caring doesn't just stop because you find condoms in a center console. Marcus texted at 11 p.m. I'm at the Marriott. Can we talk tomorrow? I didn't respond. He texted again at midnight. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I turned off my phone. Wednesday morning arrived with Tyler needing lunch money and a permission slip signed and a ride to school because he'd missed the bus. Life doesn't pause for betrayal. You still have to make breakfast and find matching socks and pretend everything is normal until you figure out how to explain that it's not. Janet was in my office when I arrived holding 2 coffees. Okay, what's really going on? She said, closing the door behind her. And don't say you're sick. I've known you for 10 years, Celia. I've seen you work through pneumonia. I took the coffee and told her everything. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making small noises of rage on my behalf. Oh, that bastard, she said when I finished. What do you need? I don't know. Time off. But we have the gala next month and the grant deadline. Fuck the gala! And I can handle the grants. You take whatever time you need. I can't afford to lose this job, Janet. I'm about to be a single mother with college tuition, and... Stop! She gripped my shoulders. Your job is safe. You're essential here. Plus, I'd quit if they even tried to let you go over this. So would half the staff. You focus on you and the kids. We've got your back here. I started crying then, the first real tears since finding that receipt. Janet held me while I sobbed in my office. The door locked the non-profit world, continuing outside with its meetings and missions and meaning while my personal world collapsed into rubble. Marcus came to the house that afternoon while Tyler was at practice. He'd texted first asking permission, which felt like the smallest possible gesture toward respect. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled shirt, eyes red-rimmed. Good. I thought, then hated myself for the pettiness. Can we sit? He asked. We sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd eaten thousands of meals, helped with countless homework assignments, celebrated birthdays and report cards and small victories. I ended it, he said. With Catherine. I called her this morning and ended it. Congratulations. Celia, I know you're angry. Angry? I laughed. Marcus, angry is when you forget to pick up milk. Angry is when you buy another gadget we don't need. I don't even have a word for this. I want to fix this. I want to fix us. There is no us. You killed us the first time you kissed her. We didn't. It wasn't supposed to. He rubbed his face. It just happened. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Every Tuesday you chose. Every lie about Cleveland you chose. Every time you came home and kissed me with the same mouth that had been on her, you chose. I know, God I know. But Celia, we have 22 years. We have the kids. Doesn't that count for something? It counted for everything. To me. That's why I wasn't out at bars with random men on Tuesday nights. She wasn't random. I stared at him. Is that supposed to make it better? That she meant something? He looked miserable. No, I don't know. I'm saying this all wrong. Let me help you. What you're saying is that you were willing to throw away our marriage, traumatize our children, and humiliate me for someone who mattered enough to lie for but not enough to leave for. Is that about right? When you put it like that, how would you put it? He was quiet for a long moment. I felt invisible in our life, like I was just a function, the one who pays for college and fixes the dishwasher and shows up for parent-teacher conferences. Catherine saw me as a person, not just a role. A person. I let that word sit there. Marcus, I saw you through kidney stones and your father's death, and that year you thought you were getting fired. I saw you teach Tyler to ride a bike and cry at Emma's kindergarten graduation. I've seen you as a person every single day for 22 years. You just stopped seeing me seeing you. He started to cry, then harsh, ugly sobs that shook his whole body. Part of me wanted to comfort him, the muscle memory of 2 decades. But I stayed in my chair, my hands folded, watching this stranger who wore my husband's face. I need you to leave, I said quietly. Pack some bags. We'll figure out a schedule for you to see Tyler. I'll tell him you're traveling for work until we figure out what to say. And Emma, I'll call her tonight. And together, no, you lost together when you created Cleveland. He stood defeated. I'll get my things. I sat at the kitchen table while he packed upstairs, listening to drawers opening and closing, hangers sliding the zip of suitcases, the sound of a life being divided into his and mine. After 22 years of hours, when he came down with 2 suitcases and a garment bag, he paused at the door. I know you won't believe this, but I never meant to hurt you. You're right, I said. I don't believe it. He left, and I sat in my empty house. That wasn't empty. Tyler would be home in an hour, but felt cavernous anyway. I called Emma first. Hey, Mom, what's up? Honey, I need to tell you something. I could hear her instinct kick in through the phone, the tone that triggered every child's fear. Is someone dead? Is Tyler okay? Everyone's alive. But Dad and I are separating. Silence. Then what? Why? He's been having an affair. The dad had an affair. Her voice pitched up, disbelieving. With who? Someone from work. It doesn't matter who. How long? 4 months. 4 months. So when he came to my spring formal thing and took those pictures, he was... I don't know the exact timeline, honey. Oh my God, Mom, are you okay? I will be. I'm coming home. No, you have finals next week. Fuck finals. Emma Catherine Brennan. Mom, you just told me Dad's been cheating on you. I think I get 1 F-bomb. Despite everything, I almost smiled. 1. But stay at school. Take your finals. Come home after. Where's Dad now? A hotel. We'll work out something more permanent. I don't want to see him. You don't have to decide that now. Mom, yeah, honey, I love you. I love you too. Tyler was harder. He was still young enough to want the world to make sense, to follow rules to be fair. I told him Dad was having some personal issues, and needed space to work through them, that he'd be staying elsewhere for a while, but would still see him regularly. "Are you getting divorced?" he asked, his voice small. "I don't know yet. We're figuring things out. Jake's parents got divorced last year. His dad has an apartment with a pull-out couch where Jake sleeps every other weekend. It sucks." "I'm sorry, honey. I know this is hard." "Is it my fault? Did I do something?" "No, God, no. This is between Dad and me. It has nothing to do with you or Emma." He nodded, but I could see he didn't fully believe it. Kids always think they're the center of the story, that they could have done something different to change the ending. That night, I lay in our bed, my bed now, and stared at the ceiling. The house made its familiar settling sounds. The ice maker in the kitchen dropped a batch of cubes. The bathroom faucet dripped its slow rhythm. Another thing we'd meant to fix. I spread out like a starfish, taking up the whole bed for the first time in 22 years. It felt like floating in space, untethered and cold. Thursday brought lawyers. Sarah's friend from law school, Patricia Kwan, was exactly what I needed. Sharp, unsentimental, and expensive enough to make Marcus understand this wasn't going to be easy. New Jersey is an equitable distribution state, she explained in her office that smelled like leather and authority. Not community property like California, but equitable. That means fair, not necessarily equal. The length of your marriage works in your favor. His affair could work in your favor if we can prove dissipation of marital assets. He spent money on her. You mentioned Sachs charges restaurant bills. If those were for her, that's marital money spent on an affair. We can argue for reimbursement. I don't want to be vindictive. Patricia leaned forward. Celia, protecting yourself financially isn't vindictive. It's smart. He made choices that broke the contract, both the emotional one and the legal one. There are consequences. What about the kids? Tyler's 16. The court will consider his preferences for custody. Emma's an adult, but Marcus will likely be on the hook for college expenses, especially since that was an established expectation in the marriage. We spent 2 hours going through finances, assets, debts. The house had $300,000 in equity. Our retirement accounts totaled $400,000. There was $57,000 in savings, $25,000 in checking. 2 cars. The timeshare in Hilton Head we never used. When you laid it all out like that, 22 years looked like a spreadsheet. "I'll draft a separation agreement," Patricia said. "If he's smart, he'll sign it. If he wants to fight, we fight." He said he wants to fix things. Go to counseling. Patricia's expression didn't change. "That's your choice. But get the separation agreement signed first. You can always reconcile later. You can't always protect your assets later." That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. "Mrs. Brennan." "This is Catherine Chen." My chest tightened. "What do you want?" I wanted to apologize and to tell you some things you should know. I don't think... Please, just 5 minutes. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop in Milburn, far enough from both our normal orbits to avoid running into anyone we knew. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, no makeup, hair pulled back, looking younger and more vulnerable than she had at the Edison. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You have 5 minutes." I didn't know he was married, not at first. We met at the conference in Chicago. He wasn't wearing a ring. I looked at my own ring, still on my finger out of habit. He takes it off at conferences. Says it gets in the way when he's setting up displays. By the time he told me 3 weeks later I was all ready. She paused. I was already in deep. He said you had an arrangement, that you stayed together for the kids and appearances but lived separate lives. He said you hadn't been intimate in years. We had sex the morning I found out about you. She flinched. I know that now. When you said that at the bar. God, I felt so stupid. But there's more you should know. More. I'm not the first. When I ended things, Tuesday night really ended them, he got angry. Said I was being dramatic, that I knew what this was. When I said I didn't date married men, he said, and I quote, "You're not the first one to say that, and you won't be the last." The coffee shop seemed to tilt. There were others. I don't know who or when, but the way he said it so casual, like it was just a fact. She shook her head. I'm 34. I want a family. I don't have time to waste on men who treat women like rest stops on their way to wherever they're really going. Why are you telling me this? Because you seem like a good person. Because you deserve to know who you're married to. And because... She pulled out an envelope. He left these in my apartment. I thought you should have them. Inside were printed emails. Marcus to Catherine, dated over the past 4 months. I skimmed them, my stomach churning. The promises, the complaints about me, how I was cold. Career obsessed, how I'd let myself go after the kids. Lies wrapped in just enough truth to be believed. In one he'd written, Celia won't even notice I'm gone. She barely notices I'm there. I'm sorry, Catherine said. I know this hurts, but I thought you should see how he talks about you when you're not there. I put the emails back in the envelope. Did you love him? She considered this. I loved who I thought he was, the person he pretended to be. But that person doesn't exist as he. No, I said he doesn't. We sat there, 2 women on opposite sides of the same betrayal, finding an unexpected solidarity in our shared disillusionment. For what it's worth, Catherine said as she stood to leave. You didn't let yourself go. You look like someone who's been holding everything together for a very long time. That's not letting go. That's the opposite. After she left, I sat in that coffee shop reading Marcus's emails more carefully. Each one was a small betrayal, a paper cut on top of the gaping wound. He'd told her about our sex life, or his version of it, about my mother's dementia, which I'd confided in him during my most vulnerable moments, about my anxiety over Emma's struggles with her roommate Tyler's ADHD diagnosis, my fear that I was failing as a mother, all of it weaponized to make another woman feel special, needed like she was saving him from the terrible burden of being married to me. I drove home in a rage so pure it felt like clarity. This wasn't just infidelity. It was character assassination. He'd murdered the idea of me to justify his choices. At home, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my college roommate Bethany, now a therapist in California. Celia, oh my God, how long has it been? 3 years since your wedding. Too long. How are you? Marcus has been having an affair. What number Marcus? Your Marcus. Apparently everyone's Marcus. Oh, honey, tell me everything. I did. Bethany listened with professional patience and personal outrage. You know what strikes me? She said when I finished. The Cleveland thing. That's not just lying. That's world building. He created an entire alternate reality. That takes planning, effort, commitment to the deception. I feel so stupid for believing it. Why would you not believe it? In 22 years, had he ever given you reason to doubt his work travel? No, then you're not stupid. You're trusting. Those are different things. What do I do now? Now you grieve. You rage. You eat ice cream for dinner and wine for dessert. You let yourself feel all of it. And then, when you're ready, you rebuild. But Celia, you don't have to do it in that order. And you don't have to do it alone. That weekend, Marcus took Tyler to his travel tournament. I'd insisted on separate cars, separate hotel rooms. Tyler was confused, but adapting with the resilience of teenagers who've seen enough divorce among their friends' parents to know the playbook. While they were gone, I began the archaeology again, but different this time. I wasn't looking for evidence of betrayal, I had enough of that. I was looking for evidence of who I'd been before I'd become half of Marcus and Celia. In a box in the attic, I found my journals from college and my 20s. Pages full of dreams and plans that had nothing to do with him. I'd wanted to travel to Southeast Asia, learn to make pottery, write a novel, run a marathon. Some of those dreams had been replaced by others, raising children, building a career, creating a home. But some had just been abandoned, set aside for later, until later became never. I found photos from before we met. Me at 22, laughing at something off camera, wearing a terrible 90s outfit, but looking absolutely free. Me with my college friends on a road trip to New Orleans. Me at my first job proud, in my cheap suit, ready to change the world. I'd been a whole person. I could be again. Emma called while I was sorting photos. How are you doing, Mom, really? I'm processing. Some moments are okay, others are hard. I've been thinking about last Christmas. Dad seemed weird, didn't he? Like distracted. I thought back. Christmas was 3 months into his affair with Catherine. Maybe. I didn't notice at the time. He kept checking his phone during dinner. You asked him to put it away and he got snippy. I remember that. Mom, can I ask you something and you'll be honest? Always. Would you have stayed with him if he hadn't cheated? Were you happy? I considered this. I thought I was, but maybe I was just comfortable. There's a difference. Yeah, she said softly. There is. Sunday night, Tyler came home subdued. How was the tournament? We won the semi-finals. Lost in the finals. That's great about the semis. I'm sorry about the finals. He shrugged, then said, Dad was weird. He kept trying to act like everything was normal, but then he'd go sit in his car between games. I think he was crying. This is hard for everyone. Mom is Dad while you guys are separating. Did he do something? I'd prepared for this moment, but it still felt impossible. Dad made some choices that hurt our family. Adult choices that you don't need to worry about. He cheated, didn't he? I looked at my 16-year-old son. Taller than me now, voice already changed, childhood, slipping away like sand. Yes, Tyler nodded like he'd been expecting this. Jake said that's usually what it is when parents separate suddenly. I'm sorry you have to go through this. Are you okay? I will be. Mama, yeah, it's not your fault. Whatever happened? Jake's mum blamed herself for a while, but Jake's dad was just a dick. Sometimes people are just dicks. The Tyler. I know language, but it's true. Monday morning, I got a text from Linda Morrison. Coffee, I have information you need. We met at a Starbucks 2 towns over. Linda looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup. I shouldn't have said anything Saturday about Catherine. You couldn't have known. But I did. Kind of. She took a breath. Brad told me something after he met with her. He said she asked a lot of questions about Marcus. Personal questions. About your marriage, your family. Brad thought it was weird, like she was fishing for information. When was this? February. Brad was uncomfortable enough that he called me right after. I should have said something to you then, but I don't know what I thought. That I was being paranoid or a gossip. It's not your fault, Linda. There's more. My sister works at the Marriott where Marcus has been staying. She said he's been there before. Like multiple times over the past year. Always Tuesday nights. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. A year, at least. She remembered because he always requested the same room. Third floor end of the hall. Catherine had said 4 months. But Marcus had been renting rooms for a year. How many Catherines had there been? That afternoon, Patricia called. His lawyer reached out. Marcus wants to meet, all 4 of us, Thursday at 2 p.m. What does he want? None to negotiate. My guess he's seen what this is going to cost him and wants to minimize damage. Should I go? Yes, but let me do the talking. Thursday came too fast. I dressed carefully, my best suit, the one I wore to board meetings. Armor for battle. Marcus was already there when I arrived at Patricia's office, sitting with his lawyer, a man who looked like every corporate attorney I'd ever met. Grey suit, grey hair, grey demeanor. Let's begin, Patricia said. Mr. Brennan has a proposal. Marcus's lawyer slid papers across the table. My client proposes a 60-40 split of assets in Mrs. Brennan's favor. He'll take responsibility for 60% of college expenses. Shared custody of Tyler with primary residence remaining with Mrs. Brennan. In exchange, we'd like this to be an uncontested divorce. No further discovery, no forensic accounting. Patricia laughed. Actually laughed. No forensic accounting. That's interesting. What would we find if we did one? The lawyer's face didn't change. Nothing relevant. My client simply wants to minimize legal fees for both parties. Your client has been having affairs for at least a year. Patricia said. Plural. We have evidence of hotels, Nina's gifts. That's dissipation of marital assets. Alleged affairs, the lawyer corrected. I pulled out Catherine's envelope and slid it across the table. Not alleged, documented. Those are emails between Marcus and his most recent affair partner. Would you like me to read the parts where he discusses our sex life? Or should I skip to where he calls me a, emotionally frozen suburban zombie going through the motions? Marcus went pale. Celia, don't. I looked at his lawyer. 70-30 split. He pays all college expenses. I keep the house. He keeps his retirement accounts. And I want 3 years of alimony while I finish my master's degree. You're going back to school? Marcus asked. I always wanted to. You said we couldn't afford it. Turns out we could afford Tuesday night hotel rooms for a year, so I'm thinking we can afford tuition. Patricia added, We'll also want a forensic accounting to ensure all assets are disclosed. Marcus's lawyer whispered something to him. Marcus shook his head, then nodded. We'll agree to 65-35 full college expenses and 2 years of alimony, the lawyer said. 70-30? Patricia repeated. Or we go to court. We depose Catherine Chen. We subpoena hotel records going back 2 years. We make this very, very public. Marcus looked at me, then really looked at me for the first time since I'd walked in. You hate me. No, I said. I'm nothing you. That's worse. He flinched like I'd slapped him. We'll take the deal, his lawyer said quickly. The papers would be drawn up within a week. We'd be officially divorced within 3 months if everything went smoothly. 22 years dissolved in 90 days. Walking out, Marcus caught my arm gently. Celia, wait. I stopped but didn't turn. I know you won't believe this, but I did love you. I do love you. I turned then, looking at this stranger wearing the face of the man I'd married. You loved the idea of me, the wife appliance that kept your life running smoothly while you played out whatever midlife crisis fantasy you were chasing. But the actual me, the person with needs and dreams and feelings, you haven't seen her in years. That's not true. When's my birthday? October 15th. Well, what did you get me last year? Silence. Nothing, I said. You got me nothing. You forgot. I told you it was fine, and you believed me, because it was easier than noticing I was hurt. I'm sorry. What's my favorite book? More Silence. My mother's middle name. My best friend from high school. The name of my thesis advisor, who I still email with sometimes. You don't know because you stopped being curious about me. I became furniture in your life. Reliable, functional furniture. And when that wasn't enough anymore, instead of talking to me, working on us, you went looking for new furniture. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? He struggled for words. I felt dead inside, like I was sleepwalking through life. Catherine made me feel alive again. And the others, the ones before Catherine. His face confirmed what I'd suspected. How many, Marcus? Does it matter? Yes. 3, maybe 4. Maybe 4. You're not sure if you betrayed our marriage 3 or 4 times. It wasn't always physical. Oh, well then, just some light emotional infidelity. That's fine then. I'm trying to be honest. Now, you're trying to be honest now. After you got caught. That's not honesty, Marcus. That's damage control. I walked away, leaving him standing in the parking garage, getting smaller in my rearview mirror, until he disappeared entirely. That night, Tyler found me crying in the kitchen. Mom, I wiped my eyes quickly. Sorry, honey, just a hard day. He sat next to me at the island. Is Dad not coming back? Not to live here, no. Good. I looked at him surprised. I love him. He's my dad. But what he did to you, that's not okay. And if you took him back, what would that teach me? That you can hurt people and they'll just accept it. When did you get so wise? Jake's mom went to therapy after the divorce. She says stuff like that now. It's actually pretty helpful. Maybe we should try therapy too. Yeah, maybe. We sat there together, mother and son, in our kitchen. That would need to be just ours now. Mom, are we going to be okay? Like financially? Yes, Dad will still support us, and I have my job. And you're going back to school. How did you know that? Emma told me. She thinks it's cool. So do I. Really? Yeah, it's like you're becoming yourself again. Or maybe for the first time. I don't know. But it's cool to see. Over the next weeks, life slowly reorganized itself around this new reality. Marcus found a 2-bedroom apartment 15 minutes away. Tyler stayed with him Wednesday nights, and every other weekend. The schedule felt both wrong and necessary, like a broken bone that needs to be rebroken to heal properly. I started therapy with someone Bethany recommended. Dr. Marsha Reeves, a black woman in her 60s who took no bullshit and gave no easy answers. "Tell me about your marriage," she said in our first session. "Not the end, the beginning." So I did. How Marcus and I met at that party. How he'd pursued me with an intensity that felt like love. How I'd been 23 and uncertain about everything except that this confident, charming man wanted me. And you wanted him. I wanted to be wanted. That's different than wanting someone. I know that now. Did you know it then? I thought about 23-year-old Celia, so eager to start her real life, to check the boxes career, marriage, house, kids. I thought it was the same thing. A lot of women do. We're taught that being chosen is the prize, not choosing. We talked about patterns, how I'd made myself smaller to fit into the life Marcus envisioned, how I'd called it compromise, but it had really been erasure, how I'd confused stability with happiness, routine with intimacy. He says he felt invisible, I told her. In our marriage, how did you feel? Like I was drowning in slow motion. But I couldn't say that because I had everything I was supposed to want. What kind of person is unhappy with a good house and healthy kids and a stable marriage? A person who needs more than just stability. That's not a character flaw, Celia. That's being human. Then why didn't I leave before the affairs? Because you're brave enough to stay in discomfort for the sake of others. That's admirable, but it's also a trap. You can't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Your kids needed a mother who was a whole person. They still do. Show them what that looks like. So I tried. I enrolled in an online master's program in nonprofit management. I joined a pottery class at the community center. My hands remembering dreams deferred. I started running not for weight loss or health, but for the simple joy of moving through space under my own power. Emma came home for spring break. She was angry with Marcus in a way I couldn't be pure and uncomplicated. "I don't understand how he could do this," she said over coffee. "To you, to us. It's like he's a different person." Maybe he always was this person. We just saw what we needed to see. That's terrifying. Or liberating. Now we get to see clearly. She spent one dinner with Marcus at his apartment. Came back quiet. How was it? Sad. His apartment is sad. It's like a stage set of a life. Everything's new and matching and has no history. He's trying. Are you defending him? No, just observing. He has to build a new life, too. By choice. You didn't choose this. No, but I'm choosing what comes next. That's something. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday in June. I signed papers in Patricia's office, while somewhere across town, Marcus did the same. Just like that, 22 years became a legal document filed with the state of New Jersey. That night, Sarah flew in from Boston. We drank wine on my deck now, and watched fireflies blink in the darkness. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I'm at the end and the beginning at the same time." That's exactly what you are. I found out something. Marcus's first affair. It was 8 years ago. Sarah's wineglass stopped halfway to her mouth. What? His lawyer let it slip during negotiations. Something about a pattern of behavior dating back to 2017. Patricia caught it. I caught it. Marcus's face confirmed it. 8 years. My God, Celia. The thing is, 2017 was when Tyler was diagnosed with ADHD. When Mom started showing signs of dementia. When I was drowning in caregiving and worry, and Marcus was, I guess he was finding comfort elsewhere. That fucking bastard! I can't even be angry anymore. It's like being angry at weather. It just was what it was. You're more evolved than me. I want to key his car. Tyler needs me to be evolved. Emma needs me to be okay. I need me to be okay. And are you? I thought about it, really considered the question. I'm getting there. Some days I'm angry. Some days I'm sad. Some days I forget to be either and just live. And those are the days that give me hope. Catherine Chen sent me a card a month after the divorce was final. Inside she'd written, I heard about the divorce. I hope you're finding peace. Thank you for your grace that night at the coffee shop. I didn't deserve it, but I needed it. Wishing you every happiness. K. I kept the card in my jewelry box next to my wedding rings that I couldn't wear but couldn't throw away. Artifacts of a different life. Tyler adapted with the resilience of teenagers. He had 2 bedrooms now, 2 sets of house rules, 2 versions of family dinner. He navigated it with surprising grace, though I sometimes caught him looking sad when he thought no one was watching. You can talk about it, I told him one night. If you're angry or sad or confused. I know, it's just, I miss how it was, even though I know how it wasn't real. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. Do you think you'll date again? Someday. Maybe. Not soon. Dad is. My stomach clenched. Oh, some woman from his gym. Lisa something. He tried to introduce us last weekend. I said no. You don't have to protect me. I'm not. I'm protecting me. I'm not ready to see him with someone else. It's been like 5 minutes. 3 months. Same thing. But it wasn't the same thing. 3 months was long enough for the acute pain to fade to a chronic ache. Long enough to stop reaching for someone who wasn't there in the bed. Long enough to remember who I'd been before I'd become half of something else. My pottery class had an end-of-session show. Nothing fancy, just our work displayed in the community center lobby. I'd made a series of bowls, each one slightly lopsided, but wholly mine. Janet came and Sarah drove down from Boston. Emma brought her roommate. Tyler brought his girlfriend, a sweet girl named Mia, who played violin in the school orchestra. "Ah, these are beautiful, Mom," Emma said, holding one of the bowls. "They're imperfect. That's what makes them beautiful. They're real." Marcus sent a text that night. "Tyler showed me pictures of your pottery. You're talented. You always were." I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Progress. In August, on what would have been our 23rd anniversary, I went to the Edison, not to wallow, but to reclaim. I sat at the bar, ordered a Moscow Mule, and introduced myself to the bartender with the kind eyes. "I remember you," he said. "From that Tuesday a few months back. Different circumstances now. Good different or bad different? Just different." He nodded, wiped down the bar. "You know, I see a lot of stories in here. Affairs, breakups, makeups. The whole range. You want to know what I've learned? Sure. The people who survive, who come out okay. They're the ones who face it head on. Who don't pretend it didn't happen or didn't hurt. You struck me as that type. I'm trying to be. Good. Also, this one's on the house. New beginnings and all that. I raised my glass to new beginnings and took a sip. It tasted like possibility. A year later, I was defending my master's thesis. Tyler was in the audience about to start his senior year. Emma was there home from her marketing job in the city. Janet and my colleagues from the non-profit. Sarah down from Boston with her new boyfriend. Even Bethany had flown in from California. My thesis was on organizational resilience in small non-profits. How they adapt, survive, and sometimes thrive through disruption. I'd interviewed dozens of executive directors, analyzed budgets, studied failure and recovery patterns. But really, I'd been writing about myself. The key finding I told the committee is that resilience isn't about returning to a previous state. It's about integrating the disruption into a new identity, one that's often stronger and more authentic than what came before. They approved my thesis with distinction at the celebration dinner after Tyler made a toast. To my mom, who showed me that sometimes breaking is just the first step to becoming. Everyone raised their glasses. I caught my reflection in the restaurant window. 44 years old, laugh lines, and grey roots surrounded by people who loved me not as half of something, but as whole myself. Marcus and I had found a rhythm by then. Cordial co-parents, nothing more. He'd married Lisa from the gym 6 months after our divorce. Quick but not my business. Tyler said she was nice enough, trying too hard, but harmless. Emma refused to meet her, which was her choice to make. I'd started dating too, finally. A man named David who taught history at the high school and made me laugh. We took it slow, both carrying our own baggage, but trying not to make the other person help us unpack it. He understood that Tyler came first, that trust was earned in increments, that I might never want to remarry. He was okay with all of it, with me as I was. No Cleveland, he joked on our first date when I asked about his work travel. Cleveland doesn't exist, I'd said, and then had to explain why I was laughing so hard. One Tuesday, always a Tuesday, I ran into Catherine Chen at Whole Foods. We both froze by the organic berries, caught in the absurdity of the moment. Hi, she said. Hi, you look good. Happy. I am, both. She was wearing an engagement ring, I noticed. A different stone than mine had been on a different hand for a different life. Congratulations, I said, nodding at the ring. Thanks. He's nothing like Marcus. Good. Celia, the Catherine were okay. We were both just collateral damage in someone else's story. Now we're writing our own. She smiled, relieved. I like that. Writing our own. We went our separate ways, her to her life, me to mine. That night, I sat on my deck with a glass of wine and my laptop working on the novel I'd started. It wasn't about Marcus or the divorce or the affairs. It was about a woman who discovers she can speak to birds and uses this power to solve mysteries. Complete fiction, nothing to do with my real life, which was maybe why I needed to write it. Tyler came out home from practice. What are you working on? My book. Is it about Dad? No, it's about a woman who talks to birds. That's weird. That's the point. He sat beside me. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you forgive Dad? I closed my laptop, considered the question. I forgive the person I thought he was for not existing. I forgive myself for not seeing clearly. But Marcus himself, I don't know if forgiveness is the right word. I accept what happened. I've moved past it. But forgiveness feels like something he would need to earn, and he's never really tried. He says he's sorry all the time. Sorry for getting caught isn't the same as sorry for doing it. Yeah. Tyler was quiet for a moment. I love him. But I don't respect him. Is that okay? You feel what you feel. Love and respect aren't the same thing. You can have one without the other. Do you still love him? I love the history we shared, the family we made, but him, the actual person he is. No, that love died somewhere between Tuesday night number 1 and Tuesday night number 52. Tuesday nights, Tyler said, shaking his head. Who has an affair on Tuesdays? Someone who thinks no one's paying attention. You're paying attention now, though. To everything. I'm trying. It shows. He went inside to do homework. I opened my laptop again, looked at the last sentence I'd written. The cardinal told her secrets in a language only she could understand, each chirp a doorway to truth. I thought about truth, about the stories we tell ourselves and the ones we live. About 22 years that had felt like a lifetime, and the year after that had felt like a rebirth. About Cleveland, that fictional city where fictional meetings justified real betrayals. About Catherine and Lisa, and the maybe 3, maybe 4 others whose names I'd never know. About Marcus, who was already becoming a character in a story I used to tell myself, rather than a person who shared my bed. But mostly I thought about tomorrow. Tyler had a game. I had a presentation to the board about expanding our programs. David and I were trying the new Thai place for lunch. Emma was coming for dinner Sunday. Sarah wanted to plan a girls' trip to Maine. My novel needed another chapter. The tomatoes in my garden were finally ripening. My life, my actual life, was full and getting fuller. I wrote until the fireflies came out, then went inside to my house. That was just mine, where the dryer still squeaked and the faucet still dripped, but where no one lied about Cleveland or anywhere else. Tyler was in his room on a video call with Mia. I could hear him laughing. The sound filled the house like a blessing. In my bedroom, I'd finally fixed the faucet myself. YouTube tutorial and 3 trips to Home Depot, but I'd done it. The silence felt earned. I'd also bought new sheets, painted the walls. A color Marcus would have hated hung art he'd never understood. The room didn't look like a married couple's bedroom anymore. It looked like mine. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Thinking of you. Sweet dreams. I smiled, texted back. You too. Then I plugged in my phone, turned off the light, and lay in my bed that took up only the space I needed. Outside, summer night, sounds played their familiar symphony. Inside, my house settled into itself, into its new configuration of just enough. This is what the other side looks like, I thought. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole. Fully, completely, authentically whole. I closed my eyes and slept without dreams, without worry, without the weight of someone else's lies. Just sleep, deep and restful, and mine. The receipt from the Edison was still in my jewelry box next to Catherine's card and my old rings. I'd kept it as a reminder not of betrayal, but of the moment everything changed. The moment I stopped sleepwalking through my own life. Sometimes you need a Tuesday night receipt to wake you up to all your Wednesdays and Thursdays, and the whole rest of your existence stretching out ahead, waiting to be lived truthfully. That's the thing about infidelity. Everyone thinks it's about sex or love or midlife crises, but really it's about stories. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are, who our partners are, what our marriages mean. Marcus had been telling himself a story, where he was the hero trapped in a mundane life, where Tuesday nights in imaginary Cleveland were portals to a more exciting narrative. I'd been telling myself a story, where staying small meant staying safe, where being needed was the same as being loved. Both stories were fiction. The truth was simpler and harder. We'd been two people who'd stopped seeing each other clearly, who'd chosen comfort over connection, routine over intimacy. He'd handled that badly, selfishly, cruelly. I'd handled it by disappearing into roles mother-wife provider until I forgot there was a person underneath. The affairs weren't the disease. They were the symptom. The disease was the slow erosion of curiosity about each other. The assumption that we knew all there was to know, the dangerous belief that marriage was a destination rather than a daily choice. I think about that sometimes when I see couples at the grocery store moving through the aisles in practice synchronization, not talking, not really seeing each other. I want to shake them to say, pay attention, ask questions, stay curious. Don't let Tuesday nights become someone else's story. But you can't save anyone else's marriage. You can barely save your own, and sometimes, like mine, it's not meant to be saved. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let it die with whatever dignity you can salvage from the wreckage. Marcus and Lisa had a baby last month. Tyler told me carefully, watching my face. A girl. They named her Grace. How do you feel about that? He asked, like it has nothing to do with me. And it didn't. That was Marcus's new story, with new characters, and hopefully better choices. Though I doubted it. Patterns that deep don't change just because you change partners. But that wasn't my concern anymore. My concern was my story. The one where I got a master's degree at 44. Where I learned to throw pottery and fix faucets and run half marathons. Where I raised two remarkable humans who knew their worth wasn't dependent on anyone else's validation. Where I learned the difference between being alone and being lonely, between compromise and self-erasure, between love and the fear of being unloved. 2 years post-divorce, I still have hard days. Triggers that surprise me, a cologne sample in a magazine, the sound of a suitcase zipper Tuesday nights in general. But they pass. Everything passes. That's the gift and the curse of time. Emma graduated last spring with honors. In her graduation speech, she was class speaker. She talked about resilience, about watching people you love rebuild themselves from foundation up. She didn't mention Marcus or the divorce specifically, but I knew. She looked right at me when she said, "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the life you built isn't the life you need." Marcus was there, of course, with Lisa and baby Grace. We sat in different sections, careful choreography of modern family dysfunction. But when Emma walked across that stage, we both stood and cheered, united for that moment, in pride for what we'd created together, even if we couldn't sustain it. After the ceremony, in the chaos of families and photos, Marcus approached me. "She's remarkable," he said. "She is. We did something right. We did a lot of things right, just not everything." He looked older, tired. The baby wasn't sleeping, probably. I remembered those days, though now they felt like someone else's memories. "Celia, ayaday!" "Don't," I said gently. "We're past apologies. We're past explanations. were just past. He nodded. I hope you're happy. Really happy. I am. Most days. Good, that's good. Lisa called him then, needing help with the baby. He went and I watched him walk away. This man who'd been my whole world and was now just someone I used to know. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just a fact, like Cleveland never existed. Was a fact, like Tuesday nights had killed our marriage. Was a fact. David found me after flowers for Emma in his hand. You okay? He asked. Yes, actually yes. And I was, that night at Emma's celebration dinner, surrounded by family and friends, and the new configuration of our lives, Tyler made another toast. To Emma, who's probably going to rule the world, and to our family, weird and complicated, and broken in places, but still standing. Still standing, we echoed. Glasses raised. Later, as I drove home alone, David had his own car. We kept our independence. I thought about standing, about what it takes to stay upright when the ground shifts beneath you, about the difference between standing still and standing strong. I'd done both. Stood still for too long in a marriage that was slowly suffocating me. Then stood strong when it all fell apart, when the truth about Cleveland came out, when I had to rebuild not just my life, but my entire understanding of the past 2 decades. Now I was neither standing still nor struggling to stand. I was moving forward one Tuesday night at a time into whatever came next. My phone buzzed at a red light. Tyler, thanks for being cool about the baby thing. I texted back, always. Emma, love you, Mom. Thanks for showing me what strength looks like. Love you too. You've always been strong. Sarah, Wine Wednesday tomorrow, via video. Wouldn't miss it. David, nightcap, I have that wine you like. I smiled, texted, rain check, need my own space tonight. Always. Sweet dreams, Celia. The light turned green. I drove home to my house. My life, my story still being written. In the driveway, I sat for a moment looking at the colonial with the red door, same house, different meaning now. The porch light was on, welcoming me home to myself. Inside, the dryer was squeaking again. I'd fix it tomorrow, or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe some things were supposed to squeak, supposed to remind you that perfection was never the point. The point was choosing. Every day, choosing what to fix and what to leave broken, what to keep and what to release, who to be in each moment of this one imperfect, irreplaceable life. I made tea, sat at my kitchen island and opened my laptop. My novel was almost finished. The woman who talked to birds had solved the mystery, but that wasn't the real ending. The real ending was her realizing the birds had been telling her own story all along in a language she was finally ready to understand. I wrote until midnight, then went to bed in my room. That was just the right size for one person who was finally fully taking up all the space she needed. Tomorrow would be Thursday. Once that would have meant recovery from whatever happened on Tuesday. Now it was just Thursday, full of its own possibilities, its own choices, its own truths that had nothing to do with Cleveland or anyone else's fictions. I fell asleep smiling, thinking about the cardinal that visited my garden every morning, the one I'd started leaving seeds for. It never sang, just watched me through the kitchen window, with its bright black eyes witnessing my new life, with the quiet approval of something wild, recognizing something finally free.